If the world went vegan, I think everything would change. Everything would have to change. I mean, right now it's the leading cause of environmental destruction on many levels, not just with the global warming and the CO2 emissions and the nitrous oxide and methane production, which is just astounding, yet we focus on CO2. But if the world goes vegan, it's the only way that we even have a chance of the planet recovering, because it's the greatest drain. It's consuming a third of our fresh water, 45% of our land, 91% of Amazon destruction is from animal agriculture. So those numbers are terrifying and astounding, and looking at how we're going to be seeing fishless oceans, in our lifetime. Thinking about it in the respects of what's going to happen if the world goes vegan, it almost makes those numbers astounding in a positive way when you look at, like, this is how severe the impact is. It also means that this is how severe the impact can be if we change this one thing about how we eat. And that's what's kind of incredible, is that this one change about what we put in our body, something so simple as what you decide to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, can heal the planet because of how astoundingly impactful it is. So environmentally, I mean, it would be a saving grace of the planet. I mean, obviously it's not the only thing we do to the planet, but it's the major issue. We'd be able to feed everyone, for one, because right now we already make enough food for 10 billion people. We make enough for our population plus, a lot. So, we would finally be able to cure world hunger, which, everyone wants to solve world hunger, but we also want to, eat our meat, dairy, and eggs and all of those things, and that's what's taking food away from the hungry. So instead of diverting half of the world's crops to our livestock so that we can feed our food to our food and then send $1 to the starving child, in some distant country, we can just use the food that we're already growing and feed the world. So there would be healing on that scale as well. Ethically and morally, I think there would be a regaining of our compassion, a regaining of what we like to call our humanity, which I feel that word has kind of lost meaning in a sense, based on our collective behaviors. But we would be able to finally be the people that we believe ourselves to be, because most people believe that they're good people. We want to be good people. We want to think of ourselves not as people who are going to be harming innocent beings or taking food from hungry people, or destroying the world to the point that our children have no future. We always say our children are our future, and yet we're not really leaving them much of a future to live in. So we would finally be able to live in concert with the values that most of us inherently have anyway. And I dare say, and I might be overly idealistic with this, but when I envision a world that's vegan, I think there's going to be a reduction of strife, of violence, of war, because when we are committing such incredibly destructive and violent acts on a daily basis, just with how we feed ourselves, which is something that we do every single day, and it's this survivalistic, and it permeates every aspect of our lives. And in order to do that, we have to live in this very severe disconnect of believing that we're these good people, and yet doing these really horrific things, or paying other people to do these really horrific things for us. And we don't want to see it. We want to put it behind, closed doors in these sterilized buildings. We want to tell ourselves it's humane and it's cruelty-free. We want to tell ourselves that it's necessary, that we need the nutrition, that, our ancestors did this, that, every single excuse we can possibly think of. And really, I think that disconnect and that not living at all in line with the good people that we believe ourselves to be, I think is almost on a global scale very psychically destructive, to try to live this dual existence. So I think there would be healing on that level as well of compassion, and once we're not, literally consuming this, this death and this destruction, and I feel like there would be healing between our species as well, like the different races and creeds and colors and all of these things. But right now it's like, even at our most basic level, we're practicing, you know, discrimination, and we're practicing violence with every meal that we eat. So, I mean, that's getting probably overly philosophical about it, and I don't think that's all going to happen all at once by any means. And I tend to be a little fatalistic in a sense that I'm not sure if the world, I feel like the world might be forced into veganism before the world's ready for veganism, because environmentally it's in crisis. We cannot sustain the way we're going to eat. So we're either going to eat the planet away, or we're going to have to change. We're going to have to amend the way that we eat. And that may happen, I dare say, before there's actually like a global enlightenment, just because that takes so much time. You know, and I mean, I'll take the revolution any way I can. I'll take a vegan planet any way I can. I would prefer for it to be an enlightened revolution, because the other avenue is so destructive. Like, we have to get to a point of major crisis before people will change, and I would, you know, prefer for us to have this healing before we take everything else out with us, you know. But I think one way or the other it's going to happen, whether it's by some grand, you know, awakening, or if it's by the fact that we just get to a point where there's no other option, you know. But when I think about a vegan world, I like to think about that healing and what it would mean, you know, for the planet and for the people and for the animals, especially because, you know, like what they go through on a daily basis is, I think, more horrific than we even understand. You know, when you really think about like what it's like to live that life, to never know compassion, to never know freedom, to never to just be a commodity from day one. You know, there's no joy, there's no, I mean, just to be born and raised in this enclosed environment where you're abused, you're neglected, your life is pain. That's all you know, and then you're slaughtered. And I mean, it's just horrifying to even try to. We can't even really understand what that kind of existence is like, and that's happening to trillions every year. So for that alone, if nothing else, if that just stopped, I think would be one of the greatest accomplishments that our species has ever done. It's like, and it's not even like we would be accomplishing anything. We would just stop doing one of the worst things that we've ever done. But I think that alone would probably be our greatest accomplishment. So yeah, I guess that's where I go when I think about a vegan world. And I always call it like the Finding Nemo Babe the Pig phenomenon. Like when we're in the movie theater watching Babe the Pig, we root for Babe, we love Babe, and then we go home and we have bacon or we have ham.